Hi everyone, today is a very special day. We have Juliana Gomez.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It's such an honor, and we since a few months ago, my husband, one day we saw you preaching at church,
Yeah.
and we were like, you finished, we were like, oh my gosh, Carlos told me you have to invite her to share her story because it was amazing. Juliana Gomez she's a worship leader at our church.
Yeah.
She grew up at our church, Christ Fellowship. She's a very special girl. She's going in 2 weeks to Mexico.
Yes, 2 weeks.
So tell us about it, Julie.
Yeah, I'm so excited, and thank you for having me here and seeing me. But honestly, it's been the Lord that has been orchestrating our meeting here, and so thank you for watching also. It's really what I'm going to be doing there is helping the kids, being like some type of support system for them. So like a house mom, someone that can help them, but also be focusing more on the teaching aspect because my degree in global education is to teach kids with disabilities, but also socially and academically trying to support them as much as possible. So my goal and my task while I'm there is to help them and give them new tools for them to succeed in everything that we're doing.
Julie, tell us. I remember one day when you were one of the days we saw you preaching. Yeah. We were at the church and you were preaching. You were preaching that day. I remember you talk about that your story about that you had cancer or leukemia when you were a baby.
Yes, I was diagnosed at the age of almost 3 with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And so basically what it is that it's cancer in the blood. And when my mom finally detected it and saw the change in me, it was that I was getting tired as a 2-year-old, getting tired, didn't want to walk, I didn't want to get it up or anything, and I would get bruises because I was starting to build less immunity and everything else, so I was getting sick super fast. And then one day they took me into the hospital, and then that's when my diagnosis came in, and it completely changed like my family dynamic, right? I lost my hair twice, and so I have little bald-headed little girl. But in that time, I saw my mom's strength. I always say that my cancer story isn't so much of my story, but my mom's story and the strength that she put up. And everything that God was teaching her in that time, I always tell her, Mom, you are my superhero. Like, you are the person that I admire the most. Because she would juggle being at home with my brother and my dad, and then also juggling that she would never miss a pill. She would always be on time to all my doctor's appointments. She would come and hold my hand when I was just screaming bloody murder because of how much pain I was in, or just how tired I was, or I didn't want anybody else to touch me. And she was through it all. And God really anointed her in that season because she would sit night after night just like flipping through the pages, learning everything that is about leukemia because she wanted to help me as much as possible, right? Yes. And in that time, back in the day, it was more crucial. Now we have more types of medications and, I don't know the word for it, but something to help.
Yes, and more treatments.
Yeah, more treatments. And so back in the day, my mom was like, I need to do everything precise, perfect, and that's what she did for 3 years. I've always wanted to serve outside of the country because when I lived in Colombia, I saw the need, and I loved watching like people walk and sell things on the streets and do their performances or, try to sell us ants.
Yes. Everything.
Ants. They try to sell us everything. And I'm like, no, thank you. But that started my love for like international, traveling. And so I told my mom, I want to go to Haiti. That's what I want. And so she's like, okay, we can try to do that, And I was like, okay, what are we going to do to save up the money? Because Christ Fellowship at the time was allowing missionaries to go to Haiti and for a week-long trip. And so for my quinceañera that my mom made for me, I was like, what are we going to do with this? Because I honestly don't want one anymore. My mom's like, you've wanted one your whole life, And so I was like, no, Mom, maybe what we can do is just ask the people that are coming to my quinceañera to donate money. And so all the money that I raised about almost $2,000 from my trip. And I held it there and I applied for Haiti, and then I got a denied letter and said, no, we're not able to send you to Haiti because you applied for a family trip and it's just you that's going. But they said, but we encourage you to go into the student trip that's coming up the following year. I was like, okay. And so I waited for a really long time. The trip that was coming up didn't end up happening. And so I was like, Lord, it's been a year. I have $2,000 in my bank account. I haven't touched it because they donated it to me. In the end of the day, it's not my money. And Pastor Abrielle came up to me one day. And she was my student pastor at the time. And she says, why don't you go to Bolivia? It was such an experience from day one. Since we got there, it was just this whole, like, I just saw beauty throughout the entire country. So we were staying with Children's Impact Network, which is an amazing organization. And they helped me and discipled me throughout many of my years and leading up to even present day. But God is so funny. I was about 16 years old. So now it's been since I was 15. It's been a year, 16 now. And Pastor Abrielle comes up to me, and in one of the days we go out into the community and we talk and we tell them about Jesus, but we also give them a gift. So it has like rice and like oil and whatever they need to cook or what they need for their family.
Yes.
So it's like a big gift basket. And Pastor Abrielle comes up to me and she says, Juliana, I would love for you to talk to this woman. And I said, who? Me? I said, you want? No, are you sure? Me? And she goes, yes, I want you to talk to this woman. And I said, why? And she says, because you know Spanish. I said, is that the only reason? Are you sure? And she's like, yes, I think you can do it. The lady introduced me, and that was our host at the time. They're like, oh, Juliana wants to say something to you. And the first thing that came out of my mouth, I don't even know what went through my mind, was, tell me your story. And I said, I want you to tell me your story. And so she said, okay. And she told me her story that she was a woman that fell in love with a man, that it was an abusive relationship, and left her with 3 kids on the side of the road. And then she was on a motorcycle and she got into a motorcycle accident and broke her leg and hasn't been able to go to the doctor to fix it. And she works like night and day for her kids. And she's like, and I still don't have enough. And then she told me a story that that really got to me, that it was about her kids, and that she's like, I don't have enough to provide for my kids. And she started to cry. And I was like, excuse me, but can I give you a hug? And she's like, yes, you can give me a hug. So we both stand up from our chair, and I walk towards her, and I just bear hugged her, like just grabbed my arms, and I wrapped myself around her. And in that time that I put my arms around her and she was just crying, the Lord says to me, this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And I was like, Lord, I can't do that. I can't do this because it's so hard. It's so hard to love people while they're hurting. I said, I cannot. I said, Lord, I do not want to. To care for someone that you can't give them answers of why things happened or how you're going to work in their life, how can I do that? And he's like, through love, Juliana, through love. And I was like, no. And so I went into the denial for so long. It was about a year long that God was like, you're a missionary, you're a missionary, you're a missionary. I said, no, Mom, like, no, Lord, I cannot do that. And so I pursued being in the military still, in disobedience. And I said, okay.
How was that?
Yeah, it was hard. I'll tell you that for sure. And finally, the Lord allowed me to go to Haiti, which was my heart's desire, right? And so I fundraised. They called me the fundraising queen because it would just come like in an instance. And I was like, I don't know where it came from, but it came from somewhere. Wow. And that's the first time that God showed me his provision, that he's the one that provides. And yes. I went into this mission trip like just super excited because I'm like, I saw the experience from Bolivia. Now I'm going into this new area of my life. We got there and we were just having so much fun. It was so beautiful. I love Haiti and just the atmosphere of the people that love, and that it's comforting at times. You know, there's always trials and tribulations and fear that can instill in a country. But once you look at the beauty from it, it's just, it transcends, right? And so I was in there, I was in awe of just everybody dancing and having so much fun. And one of the days I was at this home visit, because we would also do home visits, but it was very different than what we did in Bolivia. Because it's a different organization. And one day we were walking from one house to another, and I see this little girl like carrying some buckets on her head, and I said, "You teach me." I said, "I want to know." And of course we had no type of communication. It was just nothing. And so we would use hand signals. And she was with another little girl, and at that time I said, can you teach me? And she goes, and so she puts the bucket on my head. Of course, there's nothing in the bucket because I can't hold it. And she goes, come. And so my team and I follow her. And it was the best decision that we've ever made in our entire life. And we went down, and it was a river. And we had so much fun trying to communicate, and we would just laugh because we had no idea what was happening. And then I was like, okay, thank you so much. And then they're like, Juliana, we got to go, because I'm always the last one out. I'm always late for everything. And they're like, Juliana, we got to go. And my pastor's like, come on. And I was like, yeah, I'm coming. And so I got up, and then the girl that was trying to teach me how to hold the bucket goes like this. She's like, wait. I was like, okay, I'll wait. And she goes like running away. And I was like, where is she going? But of course, she told me to wait, so I'm going to wait. And then I see her running back. It wasn't very long, but I see her running back, and she tells me to sit down. She goes like this. And so I sat down on a rock, and she pulls up my dress to my my pant, like the end of my knees. And I was like, oh, what's happening right now? And I was just like, what's going on? And what I saw in her hand was soap. And I knew immediately that it wasn't her soap. It was someone else's soap. But she began to wash my legs. And in that time, I just touched her face. I said, you don't have to. I'm like, no. And she goes, and she starts to wash my legs. And I that for the first time is I knew what love looked like. I knew that love looked beyond borders. It didn't look that I had straight hair and she had curly hair. It didn't matter that she had dark skin and I had light skin. It didn't matter that I had green eyes and she had brown eyes. It didn't matter that I was from Florida and she was from Haiti. It didn't matter that she didn't believe in Jesus and that I did. And I saw love. I saw love transcend in a way that I've never had before in my life. And then God says, do you want to be a missionary? And I said, Lord, I will love like that little girl loved me to the other people around me. And so I said, yes, I will be a missionary because I want to show that love. That little girl with no communication, she showed me more love than anybody in my entire life could ever show me. Following year, I was around 17. I turned 8. Yeah, so I was 17 years old. The following year, I graduated. I said, okay, God, this time, I need you to reveal yourself of what you want me to do. And so I prayed and I fasted. And one night when my mom and I were bumping heads, I got onto the computer and I was watching some missionary videos. And it came across this organization called Adventures in Missions. And I was just crying because I was watching these women like go into different bars and just love the people. And then I watched them play with the kids like soccer, or they were just helping them and whatever it was. And I was like, I want to do that again. I want to know that love again. Like I was just in love with how they loved people. It wasn't about like how they shared the gospel. It's just like they loved people where they were standing. And I was like, that's what I want. I got onto the computer. I wrote out my testimony. I sent in my passport. I sent in everything. The following week, I got a call, and it was Adventures in Missions, and they answered the phone, and I answered the phone, and they asked me, oh, we're going to do your interview over the phone. I said, okay, perfect. I wasn't ready, but perfect. And so she asked me about my testimony, why you want to do the things that you want to do. And I said, it's because I want to love people. I want to love people where they are. I want to find them and share how God can transform your life from one area to the next. And after the conversation, she's like, okay, you're in. I said, what? I'm in? And she's like, yes, you're in. I want you to be a part of this team. And it's supposed to be a longer process than what it was, but it was just immediate. God said, yes, this is what I want you to do. I went on my missions trip. And in Cambodia, I saw God's power in a whole new way. I saw it in a form of telling me that I have the authority of God when I've received his presence, his knowing that he's died for me, knowing that he is the one that's going to give me all that I need. And he's shown me time and time again. And in Cambodia, it was spiritually heavy. Cambodia is a very heavy place, especially just in the atmosphere, because there is many other religions and witchcraft and all these more of demonic spirits, right? And my team and I were just battling through so much, just like left and right. The devil was just coming at us with our families, death of our families, and insecurities that have been, stuffed into us, that we've kept in a box and that we've never opened up. And then on that trip, like, I was built up. I always say that I was a building that collapsed, that had to be removed and then restored. And so in that time that I was being broken down, like, it was the worst time. Like, it was the best time of my life. I appreciate it, but it was the beauty in the chaos. In the end of the day, what I want my story to be is the infusion of grace and love. That's what I want. It's the beautiful wave of life. My story's still going, my story's still growing. Yes. But it's like honoring and being here today, and being able to share my long-winded story. It's an honor and it's a privilege to say, like, God, I am honored that you use me every day of my life, that I'm able to sit here with you and love you how I am. It's not, I don't have to be like anybody else. He loves me for Juliana. He doesn't love me for anything else. But yeah. Yes. What you see on Instagram and what you see online and what you see when I walk into church and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Mexico. But you don't see the parts that I am in my room looking at my clothes, looking at the house that I've built, that I own 75% of that house, that throughout the years that I've accumulated so much stuff and things that I appreciate, and I have to sell them. There was one day that I was looking at all my clothes and I was distributing them out of what I wanted and what I did not want. And there's items that I was holding on to from high school, like my ROTC pants that I fit in now and that I was so proud of when I put them on. I was like, yes, Jesus, we made it. I was putting them all to the side, and I was like, following the Lord means surrendering it all. And I was sitting in my room and emotionally just distraught. I wasn't crying, I wasn't mad, I wasn't sad. I was just looking at everything, and the only thing that I could do is said, I can't do this. I can't give up everything that I have. And there's days that I'm like, yes, I got this. Like, this is the best day ever. Like, I'm going to be serving the Lord and I can't wait to meet all my kids. But then like 2 hours later, or even like 30 minutes later, I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, how can I teach kids with disabilities? Or how can a disabled person that has dyslexia teach someone to read? How can I do that? And God is like, I will be your strength. I will show you and I will guide you and he's like, it's not going to be easy. Every day you're going to have a new challenge, and it's like the life of Job. And I'm not going to say that my life is just like Job in the Bible. If you have not read that story, it's a phenomenal story of just faith and endurance and everything that God can do within a person that is faithful. But it's the story of Job, right? That he was still faithful throughout all circumstances. And so there are days that I wake up and I said, Lord, are you sure? Are you sure you want me to do this? In the church, we were talking about the Holy Spirit. And I normally sit by myself because I like to process things with the Lord. And if the Lord tells me to go pray for someone, I'll go pray for them. And I'm just very sporadic, let's say. And so if I take someone with me, they need to keep up. And so I was sitting by myself, and we were talking about the Holy Spirit, and I normally go to the American service in the morning and then Pastor Daniel's service, the CFE service at night. And they had similar messages because they were both based on the Holy Spirit. And then from one point to another, Pastor Daniel starts to pray. And he says, we're going to pray about loneliness. And I just couldn't contain my tears, and I just started crying. I said, Lord, like, what is this that I'm feeling? Why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? Like, every morning I surrender every part of my life to you. I tell you, God, take this away from me, but yet you won't. And I want to know why. Why are you letting me be consumed by this? And I hear the Lord say to me, get up and go to the altar. I got on my knees and I was just crying. And I was just like, Lord, just take it away. That's the only thing I could say was, Lord, just take it away. Take it away. I don't want it anymore. Like, I surrender it to you. I don't want to hold anything back. Like, please, Lord, I give it to you. And then I look up and I see Paola and I see Pastor Arturo like worshiping, and they sing this beautiful melody that I still don't even remember, but I heard it, and they went into their knees and it felt like they were joining me. And I saw Julian and Samira, and normally I see them at church and we're always busy, and so we always say hi, and then throughout the week we would call each other or we would talk or we would get dinner one day or whatever it is. And so that day they looked at me and they said, the Lord told us to wait for you. I said, wait for me? And I was like, okay, sure. Like, what's going on? She's like, well, no, we want to know what's up with you. And I said, so I told them, I said, I'm dealing with loneliness that is just, it's all consuming me. And they're like, we just want to listen. Julian says to me, so we saw you at the altar and we knew we needed to wait for you. It was because we were waiting for school supplies at the altar from someone. And so God did a divine appointment for me to go to the altar now was because my appointment was now, and I had to be obedient in that moment so that Julian and Samira could see me to give me the recipe for my next trip. I got in my car and I just started bawling. I said, Lord, is this really what you want me to do? And I was like, do you want me to go to Mexico? Are you sure? Because once I started talking about Mexico and I saw the picture of the kids, like it was peace. It's just like, that's the thing that I was missing. It wasn't like my heart was missing a piece, but it was the fact that God added something new to it. It was a new like etapa of my life. It was like a new season that he's like, this is the key. This is what is gonna fill you up a little bit because there's something else that you're missing. And so I'm like, okay.
Julie, if someone wants to donate towards your trip, how do they do that?
This is the part that I don't like. Because for me, it's definitely more of I want to partner with you in prayer. But definitely if you do want if you want to reach out and help in donations, because what I'm really fundraising for is for the kids in their schooling or materials for me to learn to teach them properly, or the new tools that I'm going to give them. There is a GoFundMe that you can have that I will help you get to or whatever, or you can also DM me on Instagram or Facebook, and my @ is @JULLYS1990, and I say it like that
I'll
because
add it in the comments. Down here.
Comments below. Comments below. So you can follow me on Instagram, Juliana Gomez on Facebook, and you'll see updates of my kids or the things that I'm doing. If you want to DM me, I'll be more than happy to answer any of your other questions if you got this far.
Yes. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you everyone for listening to this podcast, and please share with everyone that you can, and comment and like and just
subscribe
to the channel. So I'll see you next time. Bye.